How's it going there, Meeple fans? Long time no see. I apologize for not being able to post videos to the channel as of late. I had a couple of things. Real life actually caught up with me between work, and I actually got lucky enough that I was able to go on vacation for 2 weeks with my family down to Peru. Had a great time, but now we're back, and you can tell I got a little bit more color in me. So today, I'll be bringing you a game that if you've ever wanted to feel like a captain of a ship going around collecting goods to take to sell at market or to actually help in building a great temple that your society was going to do, today's game is actually going to be a good one for you. It is Ophir from Terra Games by Jason Kingsley and Charles Wright. It is a pick-up and delivery game where you're going to be going around with a ship, picking up some goods to sell at marketplaces, to buy some gold and silver, to then build a temple, which is your end game goal. Now, we'll take a look at the components, how the game plays, which I will tell you is a pretty good breakdown as far as components wise. This game I actually kickstarted when it was up on Kickstarter and got my copy not that long ago. We'll look at the components, take a look how the game plays, and then we'll come back here for my final thoughts on the game. Alright guys, here you go. We have a 3-player game of Ophir set up here. As you can see, I set up the board already. These right here are all randomly set up. So as you go setting it up, they have like the little cardboard things that determine what they are. So you're going to put them face down and then flip them over, and that's how you determine where your stuff is. On the right here is where the temple itself is. And it'll show you here how much in cost you have to pay to purchase the gold and the silver. So initially it'll be 2 coins for the gold, 1 coin for the silver. But as you go building up the temple and as it starts getting built up, the price will increase for the actual gold and silver itself until you keep on growing the temple further along. And then you stack that on top of there, and then you do the top of the temple, and that's the completed temple. And so, as you guys can see, as you go placing the temple on, it kind of like tiers itself up and gives you like a 3-dimensional look, which is really, really cool. I mean, the actual like thickness of the cardboard is really thick, which is really cool, and I like it. And depending on whether you put down gold or silver is how many victory points you get. You get 10 victory points for gold, 5 victory points for silver. So, when you set up the marketplace in this guy, you're going to flip over 3 market cards. Now, you're going to take out about 5 cards of the A deck. It has 2 decks, an A and a B. You take 5 randomly out, shuffle the A's, you put them on top of the B, and that's how you determine your marketplace. Now, you randomly set up, this is the token for the influence for the temple, which gets randomly set. A player chooses where that's going to go. And then the bottom 3 here that shows how much it affects the marketplace itself. So you have a 0, a -1, and a +1. That when you're selling gold or selling components or goods for money will adjust how much money you get. And then anytime one of these gets removed, it just slides the next one over. And you see what it affects. Now, if you actually sell the goods at the one that has the temple gentleman there, you actually get favor points for it. Now, the favor, I'll explain a little bit more as we go into the actual turn itself, so that you know. So everybody starts with a ship that has a spot for 2 goods in it, has a cargo hold, a full cargo hold. When you go to the temple on your turn, one of the options that you can do is for 2 money, you can actually extend your cargo hold 1. And if you actually go back a second time, you can make it into another double, so you can carry up to 4 goods. Or 2 pieces of gold or silver. Because when you look at when you put the goods into your ship, it actually takes up 1 spot. However, when you put a gold or a silver bar, it takes up the whole cargo hold. So it was really neat that they actually put that into the design of the actual ship itself. as you can see, like the little wooden components here. On the top of the ship is what they call an influence die. Now, the influence die I'll go into a little bit more. So, everybody draws, like I said, a character card here that gives you a starting influence, and then the game begins. So, on your turn, you can do several things. It has it broken down here on the card. You can navigate. You can actually move your ship 1 or 2 spaces. So the yellow player, if they wanted to go, let's say, to where the silk is, they can go 1, 2, and then they can pick up a silk or cloth into their cargo hold. Now, the other option you can do when you're traveling is you can pay 1 of those influence points to anchor your ship where it is. So if you wanted to, let's say, grab a second piece of stone, you could do that. So you could sit there and move 1, grab a stone, and then pay 1 influence and grab a second stone. You can do this on your turn for your movement. After that, you have actions that you can do. You can pick up the goods, which is an action. If you go to the marketplace, you can sell. If you go to the metals area, you can buy them depending on whether you have gold or not, or money enough for it. Or you can go to the temple and either pay or either drop off a gold or silver to start building the temple for victory points, or you can buy an additional cargo hold. The only kind of thing that kind of changes as far as movement is, let's say the yellow ship is in the stone and blue wants to move into the blue, or into where the stone is. What ends up happening is you do what they call an influence check, which is based on this die. If your influence is equal to or greater to, when you roll in the die that the other character has, you can enter that spot. If it's not, you can't move into that spot. So let's say blue wants to go into yellow, and he rolls, and he gets a 2, which is higher than the 1 that is on the yellow ship. He can now move in. So now 2 becomes the new influence for blue. The interesting thing that they did on this, let's say blue had a 5 and I rolled a 2 on the blue. Blue would not be able to enter the square. However, yellow would have to adjust his influence down 1. So the more you defend your area with your high influence, it'll start to come down, so it will eventually give a chance for somebody to roll at higher than you and get in. Once you have that going down, that's essentially the game itself. You go through picking up goods, selling goods, buying gold, until somebody puts the 3rd piece of either gold or silver there. Once, let's say the 3rd person goes to the temple, puts that 3rd piece of gold, you take these metals back out onto the pile, and you take the next piece of the temple and lay it down on top, which basically means that section of the temple has been built and it's now starting to rise. Essentially, play goes like this: everybody taking their turn, putting down things onto the board until eventually you get to the top where the actual whole temple gets built. And I'll put it here piece by piece so you guys can see again how it goes. So you just keep laying up one piece on top of the other one, and it'll eventually get completely built all the way. And then once it's completely built, you have your temple built. Game ends at that point, and then you see who has the most amount of victory points. It's essentially, you flip over your cards, and you sit there and you score how many cards that they have on them. You count them all together. If you happen to get to a tie when counting the cards, you actually see who has the most favor remaining on their card. If there's still a tie with favor, whoever has more of the basic goods in their cargo hold is your winner. Now, the interesting thing, the one other thing that you can do when you go to the marketplace, and I kind of forgot to mention when you go to sell, on the top of the names of the character cards. It will sometimes have one of the basic goods on it. If you do have a basic good on top of your card, when you go to the marketplace, and it does not cost you an action to do this, if you have one of those that same basic good in your cargo hold, you can sell that automatically, if you'd like to, for 1 coin. So it's kind of a way to get a little bit of extra cash while you're sitting there. What's really neat is, depending on the power that your card has, some more powerful cards actually don't have a basic trade good that they can sit there and trade in for 1 coin, which is interesting because it balances out. You get more powerful ability, but you can't just as easily make up a coin from it. So the turn goes like this. You do your 2 moves and your actions, and then play passes on to the left, and you go around in this turn order until the last medal gets placed into the temple that forces on the top. Count up victory points, and the highest victory point count is your winner. And there you have Ophir by Jason Kingsley and Charles Wright from Terra Games. Now, the copy that I have here, I actually kickstarted it when it was up on Kickstarter. One of my fellow YouTubers, Talks over at Crits Happen, had put up a preview kind of sort of the game. Basically, he had played it at a couple cons, a prototype copy where Jason and Chris were going around, or Jason and Charles, I'm sorry, were going around, and they were play testing it and all that, and the mechanics of it seemed really, really well. So I backed it and all that. Now, one of the big things that was really interesting about what Charles and Jason did was they had their Kickstarter goal, and they had 2 stretch goals. One of the 2 stretch goals, the first one, was to actually get 2 additional character cards in the game itself. And then the second stretch goal was to upgrade the components from wooden chits, or from cardboard chits to wooden components. Now, when the Kickstarter went through and all was said and done and finished, they actually only reached one of the 2 stretch goals, the first one, but they missed the second stretch goal by, I want to say it was like $200 to $300, and mind you, you're talking, it was about a $2,000 difference in between the 2. So I think it was 2 to 3. So it was really, really close that it actually came to fruition. One of the things that was really neat what these guys did is they actually held a backer survey and said, you know, considering that doing the cards or doing the components, it was going to cost about the same thing, they'd let us vote on what we actually wanted, either the 2 extra character cards or the wooden components. Now, they sat there and they said if we did choose the wooden components and didn't choose the character cards, that it wouldn't mean we'd never see those character cards. They said there could be a possibility of adding them in a future expansion. So pretty much in looking at the voting, what most people put is, and it was one of my votings, was upgrading the components to wooden components to make sure that the game itself had more shelf life as far as the components themselves. To everybody's surprise, what Jason and Charles did, which to me goes, you know, way beyond what anybody can do, they actually came back and said, you know what, since we were so close to the goal itself, we're actually going to put up with our own money the difference, and we're going to give you the guys the 2 additional character cards and the wooden component upgrade. So really, really, like, hats off to them for actually doing that. It was unbelievable that they were kind enough to do that, and I honestly think it did pay off really well for them in doing that. So as far as the game itself, what do I think? Let's talk about the components themselves. Components of this game are phenomenal. I love the fact that they have all your goods are wood-based. It gives that little extra feel to them. It is something that will make it so that they will last a long, long time. I mean, if you sit there and you look at all the big major games that have been sitting around for a long time, Power Grid, things like that, you know, mostly a ton of euros, they all come with wooden components because they know it is something that will make the game itself last longer on the shelf before your components break down. With that being said, the fact that they did that with these, I think is really, really great. It adds an overall aesthetic to the actual game itself that looks beautiful. I love the fact that they, even with the wood components, the breakdown onto your ship where you can put them in there, they still fit perfectly, just like if you look at some of the videos that they had where they had the cardboard chits, they fit them perfectly in there, and that to this really makes it stand out and stuff like that. So, I mean, really, really great job as far as the components. Now, gameplay-wise, I really, really like the fact the way that they made the game itself. It's a very simple, when you look at it, pick up and delivery game. However, there is a good bit of strategy to it because you can set those barriers in place. And I feel that by them doing that and having the character cards that give you the different abilities, it really does make you think about, you know, how you want to do it. Now, in the rule book, it basically says, and it's one of the things that kind of like I don't like, and it has a variant in it, and I always play with the variant, which is you're supposed to pick one roll, you know, one extra roll per players that they actually are, and then you draft one and pass and do like that. That to me, where you basically just hand out people rolls and then everybody just flips over and hey, you got it, to me kind of limits the game itself in doing it. The way that we've been doing it, I believe it's either a variant in the manual or I've read it online, where what you do is you draw, and of course this is depending on how many players there are, 2 cards per player, hand those out to the players, and then they choose one of those 2 characters as their character card. I've also even gone as far as you get all of them and you line them up, and then everybody, I believe they do like a draft type of thing in here. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know, doing that little bit, like doing the 2 cards per, and then you pick one and then that's it, is really, really cool. Now, when it comes down to strategy, or actually, let's even keep going on the components of this before I go a little bit forward. The 3-dimensional temple that they have blows me away. I had seen it in videos and stuff like that, and listening to people talk about it that play tested it, and just the way that they sat there and they said, like, it looks amazing and it's cool and you just have to see it in person. I do agree with that. You have to see it in person. They use such a thick cardboard, and it's super cool when you sit there as you go stacking up the temple. Like, it looks like a 3-dimensional temple growing into the on the board. To the point where I honestly think if they ever wanted to do a deluxe version of this, if this thing really blows up, and actually make like a 3-dimensional thing, kind of like how Pillars of the Earth has the chapel. I honestly think that would be the coolest thing that they could probably do to the game itself to actually make it a little bit better. Strategy-wise, now the thing about this game that gets me is it seems like there's not that much strategy to it, but as you go playing it, there is a good bit of strategy to it. You have to go around. You have to pick what you want to do. You can't just go, I'm going to go here, going to go there. I mean, you have to do it. The game that my wife and I played, it came down pretty close. I kind of ran away with putting gold into the temple early on, and she honestly thought, she was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to win. And when it came down to it, we were only off by about 10-15 points, I want to say, if that. So it was a really interesting way of doing it. Like, she really came on towards the end. I really like the fact that they didn't do a scoring track on this, and that your victory points are on cards that you keep hidden, because in a lot of times I've seen in some Euros, when you sit there and you play that you can see the track the whole time. If you see that there's somebody way out ahead, it really, there's some people that it'll drive them harder to keep going. I'm like, I'm going to catch that person, and we got to beat them. And there's some people that'll just look at it and be like, man, they're way far out ahead. There's nothing I can do to catch up with them. So I love the fact that, unless you're really paying attention to who's taking what cards and how much, and you can keep that math in your head,
it'll have people just play the game, which is really, really great. I mean, I love that about the game. Only thing I would say that was kind of interesting, like in the marketplace where you set one as the one for the temple and all that, and you shift the market down as people buy stuff and all that. I mean, I like the fact that each game you play, it randomizes what gets the +1, the 0, and the -1. I wonder if there would be somebody out there to do like a variant of like moving the cubicle that the temple goes to buy for influence points. It kind of seemed like it was an interesting idea. Like, I like the fact that they have that influence marker, and you can sit there and sell stuff to get the influence for the temple. But it was one of those things where it almost seemed like my wife and I wish we could move the marker around, like change it up, do something as a move or something. Or even have like a character that's their special ability. They can move the marker around. But other than that, I mean, it was a really cool way that they designed it and all that. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, quality-wise, it's great. I love the fact that on the cardboard pieces that have the ship, you actually have one side that has a little banner on the side that gives you a breakdown of your turn and stuff. And then on the other side, it's just a bigger picture of the ship, or it's more centralized and all that. So if you already know how to play it, it has like, really nice place for it. Artwork in this game is phenomenal. I mean, whoever did the artwork did a great job. Rule book is very, very simple to read. Breaks down very, very easily how the game plays. But overall, I mean, this has definitely been a hit for me. I mean, I'm really, really glad that I kickstarted this. It was one of I have to admit, I mean, I put the money down onto it, and just like any Kickstarter, you gotta kind of like look at it as, hey, that money's gone already. And I was in the back of my mind, I'm like, I hope it's a good game. I hope it's a good game. But at the same time, I was at that point where I'm like, well, it's not that great. I can always sell it or something. But this is definitely gonna sit on my shelf. I mean, it's a really great game. I'd give it a like 9 out of 10 because it is fun. I mean, I docked the 1 point for the little things that, like we discussed, that I didn't like. But other than that, I mean, it's just really, really fun. I mean, and the fact that every time you play, the positions of all the goods changes, as well as what's on the market and all that, will give this really, really long legs on the shelf, because it's going to be a different game every time you play. And considering that every time you play, you'll be different character cards is great. So that's Ophir from Terra Games. Definitely go out there and take a look at this if this interests you. I mean, it's a great game. I mean, honestly. And once again, guys, like, if you like the videos, click like, subscribe, and leave some comments in the section below. I'd love to read some comments from you guys on what you think about the channel, things like that. And as I always say, guys, get out there and game. Take care.